Welcome to the Ladder of Eros, Plato's exploration of love and wisdom. Plato's Symposium is a philosophical dialogue that explores the nature of love, beauty, and the pursuit of truth. It was written around 380 BCE. It is one of Plato's most important works, both as a literacy piece and as a philosophical treatise.
Ancient Greek philosopher Plato explored the idea that we love in order to become complete. In his Symposium, he wrote about a dinner party at which Aristophanes, a comic playwright, regales the guests with the following story. Humans were once creatures with 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 faces. One day they angered the gods, and Zeus sliced them all in 2. Since then, every person has been missing half of him or herself. Love is the longing to find a soulmate who will make us feel whole again. Or at least that's what Plato believed a drunken comedian would say at a party.
Historical context. Plato was a student of Socrates and the teacher of Aristotle. His philosophical works, including the Symposium, often explore deep, metaphysical questions about the nature of reality, ethics, and the soul. The Symposium is set against the backdrop of Athenian society in the late 5th century BCE, during a time of social and intellectual change. It was written around 385 to 370 BCE. The Symposium reflects the intellectual climate of the late 5th century Athens, a period marked by political instability after the Peloponnesian War. The dialogue belongs to Plato's middle period, where he explores his theory of forms in depth. Symposia were common Athenian gatherings where aristocratic men discussed philosophy, politics, and poetry over wine. Plato uses this setting to explore profound ideas in an accessible or engaging format.
Many of today's thinkers like Plato. One 20th century philosopher even went so far as to describe all of Western philosophy as a series of footnotes to Plato. He created the first Western university and was teacher to ancient Greece's greatest minds, including Aristotle. But even one of the founders of philosophy wasn't perfect. Along with his great ideas, Plato had a few that haven't exactly stood the test of time. So here are brief rundowns of a few of his best and worst ideas. Plato argued that beyond our imperfect world was a perfect, unchanging world of forms. Forms are the ideal versions of the things and concepts we see around us. They serve as a sort of instruction manual to our own world. Floating around the world of forms is the ideal tree and the ideal YouTube channel, and even the ideal justice or ideal love. Our own reality is comprised of imperfect copies of ideal forms. Plato argued that philosophers should strive to contemplate and understand these perfect forms so that they may better navigate our misleading reality. While it may seem silly, the disconnect between the world as it appears and the greater truth behind it is one of philosophy's most vexing problems. It's been the subject of thousands of pages by theologians, philosophers, and screenwriters alike. It raises questions like, should we trust our senses to come to the truth, or our own reason? For Plato, the answer is reason. It alone provides us with at least the potential to contemplate the forms. But reason didn't always pan out for Plato himself. When he sought to situate humankind amongst the animals, he lumped us in with birds. Featherless bipeds was his official designation. Diogenes the cynic, annoyed by this definition, stormed into Plato's class with a plucked chicken, announcing, "Behold, Plato's man." But back to a few good ideas. Plato is one of the earliest political theorists on record, and with Aristotle, is seen as one of the founders of political science. He reasoned that being a ruler was no different than any other craft, whether a potter or doctor, and that only those who had mastered the craft were fit to lead. Ruling was the craft of contemplating the forms. In his Republic, Plato imagined a utopia, where justice is the ultimate goal. Plato's ideal city seeks a harmonious balance between its individual parts and should be led by a philosopher king. Millennia before his time, Plato also reasoned that women were equally able to rule in this model city. Unfortunately, Plato was inconsistent with women, elsewhere likening them to children. He also believed that a woman's womb was a live animal that could wander around in her body and cause illness. This bad idea, also espoused by other contemporaries of Plato, was sadly influential for hundreds of years in European medicine. Furthermore, he thought that society should be divided into three groups: producers, the military, and the rulers, and that a great, noble lie should convince everyone to follow this structure. The noble lie he proposed was that we're all born with gold, silver, or a mixture of brass and iron in our souls, which determine our roles in life. Some thinkers have gone on to credit the idea of the noble lie as a prototype for 20th century propaganda, and the philosopher king as inspiration for the dictators that used them. Should a few bad ideas tarnish Plato's status as one of the greatest philosophers in history? No. Plato gave the leaders and thinkers who came after him a place to start. Through the centuries, we've had the chance to test those ideas through writing and experience, and have accepted some while rejecting others. We are continuing to refine, amend, and edit his ideas, which have become foundations of the modern world.
We'll go to the key aspects of Symposium. We have the nature of love, or Eros. The dialogue's central theme is the nature of love. Each speaker presents a different perspective on love. First is Phaedrus, sees love as a motivating force for virtue and honor, encourages noble acts, especially in a lover-beloved relationship. We also have Pausanias, distinguishes between common love, the focus on physical attraction, and noble love, focused on intellectual and spiritual connections. The common love is physical, transient, and self-serving, while the other one, which is the noble love or heavenly love, is intellectual and spiritual, fosters wisdom and virtue. Aristophanes offers a mythological account describing humans as once being spherical beings, each with two bodies who are split in half by the gods. The longing for one's other half, he argues, is the essence of love. We have Socrates, drawing from his teacher Diotima, presents love as a progression from physical attraction to an intellectual and philosophical pursuit of beauty and truth. According to Aristophanes, humans were once spherical and split by gods or by Zeus. Love is the search for a missing half to regain the wholeness, while for Socrates, love begins with physical attraction but ascends through stages. First is love for a particular body. Second is love for all beautiful bodies. The next is love for beautiful souls. Love for loss and knowledge, and love for the form of beauty, the eternal and perfect ideal. We have the ladder of love, one of the most influential concepts introduced in the Symposium is the ladder of love, also known as the ascent of Eros. Socrates, recounting Diotima's teaching, explains that love begins with physical attraction to a single body, but should progress upward toward love of all bodies, then to love of soul and minds, and finally to the love of the form of beauty, which is eternal and perfect. The idea of the forms is central to Plato's philosophy. The forms are abstract, perfect ideals of concepts like beauty, justice, and goodness. In the Symposium, Plato argues that love is not merely an attraction to the physical world, but is a way of directing the soul toward the contemplation of these eternal forms. The philosopher's ultimate goal is to ascend to the highest form of love, the love of the form of beauty itself. Socrates and the Eutima's teachings. In the dialogue, Socrates presents the teachings of the Eutima, a wise woman who reveals that love is divine force that leads the soul toward higher knowledge. The Eutima teaches Socrates that love is not just about physical attraction, but is a vehicle for the pursuit of wisdom and truth. Through love, the individual moves from desire for physical body to an appreciation of spiritual and intellectual beauty, culminating in the pursuit of the divine and the eternal. The role of love in the philosopher's life. For Plato, love is intimately connected with philosopher's quest for knowledge. The philosopher is driven by a love that transcends mere physical or romantic attraction and strives for wisdom and truth. Love, in this context, becomes a form of spiritual and intellectual longing that guides the philosopher toward a higher understanding of reality. Purpose and philosophical implications. Plato wrote the Symposium to provide a framework for understanding the nature of love, not only in terms of human relationships, but as a philosophical and spiritual journey. The dialogue encourages readers to view love as a transformative force that leads the soul from the material world to the divine. The Symposium is a reflection on the philosopher's role in society of the nature of beauty, and lastly is the conclusion. Plato's Symposium is a profound exploration of love, beauty, and the pursuit of truth, presented through a series of engaging dialogues among prominent figures in Athenian society. At its core, the Symposium elevates love for Eros beyond physical attraction, portraying it as a guiding force that leads the soul toward higher knowledge, spiritual growth, and the appreciation of eternal beauty. The various speeches provide a rich spectrum of views, from the mythical and romantic to the intellectual and philosophical, culminating in Socrates' account of love as a divine journey that transcends to the material world.